Welcome to this String King Guitar Works video. Today we're going to look at how to fill dips and deep grooves on a rosewood fretboard using dust and super glue and a technique that I'm going to show you. So this is a 1970s Avon 6-string guitar. It's seen a lot of work over its years, so it's old, very old and very used, and it's got some quite deep grooves. You can see them in the fretboard here. So what I'm going to do is use a technique with dust and super glue and fill these grooves in, and then I'm going to sand them down and you won't be able to see it. The customer also wants me to refret this guitar, which makes this job a lot easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the frets out, and then we're going to move on to the fretwork repair. So let's get the frets out. What I'm going to do is I've got my old soldering iron, and it's got a groove cut in the tip of the soldering bit. So what I'm going to do is just heat up these frets, and the purpose of doing this, I haven't got the iron set very high, but the purpose is to melt any glue. There might be super glue or possibly wood glue holding these frets in, so the iron will heat that up, and if there is super glue we'll probably see a little puff of smoke when it gets to the temperature where it melts, and we'll be able to smell it. I can't smell anything yet, I can't see anything yet. That fret's getting pretty hot. The other thing that this does is it warms up the wood surrounding the tang on the fret, and that helps because it means that when you pull the fret out it's less likely to splinter. It just releases the oils in the woods and makes it all a little bit softer and less brittle. So there's no glue holding these frets in, it would have gone pop by now. So I'm going to take the fret out now. So I've got my fret removal tool. This is a really good one that I got quite recently. It's made by 3 Peaks. You can buy these from Japan, or you can get them at Stuart McDonald's if you want to pay a lot more for them. But it is a really good tool. It's got great sharp jaws, and it gets right underneath the bottom of these frets. So I tend to start at the end, and once I've got it going, you just move along very slowly. Don't know if you can see that, along all the fret, and when you get to the end it's just going to pop out. So that's come out without any break off around the edges of the fret. So I'm just going to go ahead now and remove all the rest of these frets. So we're just getting to the end of removing these frets now. I've got down to the last one. All of them have come out really well. There are some very tiny chips, but when I get to re-radius this fretboard with a radius sanding tool, they'll all disappear. So let's get this last one out, and then we're done with this bit. So again, just heating up the fret. This iron is getting pretty hot now, so I'm not having to spend so much time doing that. And let's get the fret out. So hopefully this angle is a little bit better for you. So we just get it under the end and slowly work along the fret. It's really worth taking your time doing this kind of job, because it's quite easy to mess up. So that's the last one, and again, no tear out around the fret. So it's really about addressing these grooves in here. First of all, we need to make sure it's straight actually, which is a good point, because we don't want to re-radiusing a neck that isn't straight. So get the straight edge, and I can just check to see if there's any light coming through the gap, or if there's any gap, which there isn't. So the neck is straight, So we've got a straight neck, we've got a radiused sanding block with some 240 grit on it, and we're just going to, without putting any pressure on it because we don't want to distort the shape of the neck, just going to sand this down. And I'm really only going in one direction because I want to make sure I don't sand the middle too much. And when we've actually filled in these holes, we'll be doing a lot more of this. But at the moment what we're just doing is exposing the spaces where those dips need to be addressed. And so it's pretty clear now. What we've got are some dips here, one here, and one here. A little bit up here too, so there's quite a few areas that we need to have a look at. The rest of it's going to be fine. The shallower dips will disappear with further sanding with the block. So what we're going to do now is start doing the work on these dips, and the tool that I'm primarily going to use is this craft knife. First of all, I'm going to test this dust, because once you add super glue to it, it tends to change colour, and I've got a lighter wood, need a bit more of that, the ash, and the mahogany, which is a bit darker. But what I've found in the past is that when you add the super glue to the mahogany, it goes pretty much the right colour for the fretboard, although this fretboard's got two different shades in it. So I'm going to just put a bit of this on a piece of card and add the super glue and see what colour we get to. So the glue I'm going to use is this thin super glue, because it wicks through really fast, and you can see the colour that that's gone is pretty close. Gets everywhere, this glue as well, so glue your fingers together. So that's pretty close, if not almost identical to rosewood colour. First of all, I'm going to use this knife to trim away at some of these fibres around the hole, so that we've got something for the dust to cling to with the super glue added. Fumes I'm getting off that, crazy. And what it'll also do is it'll help blend it in with the rest of the wood, so it won't be apparent that there's a patch of dust and glue in there. So I'm just going to cut in and lift around the area of these dips. Don't forget that we're going to be filling this in. It does look dramatic and potentially catastrophic, I suppose, but this will all get filled in. Just making sure I've gone right to the edge. So now I'm just going to get some of my mahogany dust kind of tamp it down a little bit into the dip. Glue's actually stuck to the bench. Sticking to my fingers now. God, this stuff's amazing. Okay. Boom, there we go. I'm just going to leave that to dry. I mean, I could use some accelerator on that, some super glue accelerator, but I don't really like doing that for this, because sometimes what can happen with the super glue accelerator is it bubbles up a little bit. I'm just going to put some more dust on top. The great thing about super glue is it kind of glues to itself as well, so you can add extra in on top of what you've already done. Just do the next bit. I'm waiting for that to dry. Some dust in. Apply the glue. And it's done. So I've got at least 3 or 4 other areas I've got to do this to. So let's get on with that. Now that looks a little bit messy, but I can assure you that when we get this sanded down, it's going to be nice and smooth. So we're going to leave that for an hour or so to completely cure, and then we'll come back in with this radius sanding block and see where we are and how smooth it is and whether we need to do any more. I've already taken off the bulk of the super glue with a mill file, so most of it's gone. Now it's just a question of getting it all level. And I can see that on most of the fretboard we are now taking off wood. And I want to get this right down to the edge, so I haven't got a rounded edge, or not too much of a rounded edge, so the frets sit properly when I get to put them in. So this is also not just about the dents, but about getting the fret slots nice and level. Now I need to check that I'm not sanding it with a bow in it. I want to get it nice and flat, so I'm going to hold it up to the light. and we'll see where we are. That's perfect. So I can keep going. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a white Chinograph pencil just to put some marks across the fretboard, and that's going to help me see that I am taking it off all the way across. And we can see those marks going over nearly all of the fretboard, but there's these areas around here, so it's a little bit higher here than this bit, so we need to get it all completely level. So I'm just going to keep going with this. We've still got a little bit of an edge round this particular fill. That one's gone completely, so we need to keep going here. Now I'm starting to go the other way because I want to make sure that I get this edge off the edge of the super glue as well as the other side. And the pencil marks are just starting to go. Very easy when you're doing this to lose your concentration and start sanding one particular area that you're trying to address, but it is really important to keep the sanding block level so you don't create any twists. Still feel the edge of that, but not round here. So basically, as you can see, there's this area here which is not getting sanded, so we do need to just keep going until we get this bit, but we're getting close. Now I don't know if you remember, there was a dip here that we filled, and you can see there it's just completely gone, it's not visible anymore, and that's what we're going to eventually get to with this. So I've just spotted another dip here, so I'm actually going to address that as well before we continue. Okay, so I've been back in there and just filled in that little dip in there, and filed the top of the glue off with a mill file. And we'll just go back again, well, with the Chinograph. Actually, let's do the whole of the fretboard just to be on the safe side. And we've still got that issue on this side of the fretboard. Both edges actually are still just taking off the middle, but that dip's gone and it's not visible. That dip's not visible. This one's nearly gone. Just a little bit more. So if we put some naphtha on this fretboard now, lighter fuel, as we call it in the UK, you'll see all those dips have gone. There's a darker area where this one's been filled, but it doesn't really look out of place on the fretboard. There are other dark areas on this fretboard, so I'm saying that's done. Okay, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. Please subscribe if you liked it, and leave me some comments if you've got any questions. Thank you.